Look up the word crazy in the dictionary and you might just find an asterisk beside the definition that says, listen to the Subiquitous podcast featuring Sue Duffield and you'll find out what crazy means. Sue's travelogue journey of unfiltered stories, impossible miracles, and faith-filled fun will be revisited right here. So buckle up and let's get going with this humorous travelogue of an unfiltered saint, Subiquitous.
Has anyone said Merry Christmas to you? I hope they have. And if they haven't, may I be, as my pastor's wife says, let me be the first to say to you, Merry Christmas. I am so grateful to be able to say that. I really am. I'm kind of up to here with the happy holiday thing. So saying Merry Christmas is really, really where my heart is. And today's episode, number 30, can you imagine that? Number 30, crazy as it is. This one's called The Christmas Tree's Last Stand. And I want to go back a few years to a blog that I wrote back in 2010 and kind of revisit that today. Since my childhood and all through my adult years, our family, the Beatty family in Penns Grove, New Jersey, we owned literally over 50 Christmas tree stands. Now, what I mean by that is that we would always, every year, for some reason, we either one broke or we lost it or we threw it out with the trash or whatever happened. Christmas tree stands were not one of my father's favorite things, okay? I'm just going to tell you that. And, I mean, they came in all shapes, sizes, quality, from that cheap plastic to the pricey cast iron one we bought one year. And then when we got married, Jeff and I were on this search to try to find the perfect Christmas tree stand. I wrote a little ditty, I would call it, a little redo of the well-known carol for you today, just to give you a glimpse of the life and the bizarro world of that yearly dreaded acquisition and setup with fear and trepidation called the search for the right Christmas tree stand. Now, I'm not going to bore you with the whole song of the 12 days of Christmas. I'm just going to start from the 12th day, and here's my little adaptation. On the 12th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 12 Target coupons, 11 feet of wiring, 10 fingers sticking, 9 hooks unhooking, 8 friends a-heckling, 7 kids disrupting, 6 kids a-climbing, and 5 steel band clamps, 4 T-bolt screws, 3 Tylenol, 2 migraines, and a super industrial strength Christmas tree stand. Oh, every year we would go through this magnanimous argument in the Beatty household when we were growing up. Dad, you're screwed the screw too far deep into that trunk of the tree and it would fall over. But finally one year after all of those years of tree hassle, we finally gave up. And the Duffield house, now that our kids are grown and we're grandparents now, we basically have given in to maybe like a small little artificial one, the easy to assemble with the tree stand included, or even better, the retro classic ceramic tree that's sitting on my counter in the kitchen. Oh yeah, just plug it in and voila. And then I burn those wonderful aromatic and balsam candles around the house just to tease my mind a little bit. But I will confess today on this podcast today, I confess to you, I miss the struggle of a real Christmas tree. Now, Jeff, on the other hand, is probably thinking to himself, and I'll just speak for him before he speaks, he is so relieved to be over the hassle of dragging in a tree and dragging it and trying to put it up, making it straight. He is so done with that. And I'm pretty sure, am I telling the truth?
You are telling very much truth. It is called the law of diminishing returns. And by the way, you said we searched for the perfect Christmas tree stand.
Right.
We're now 45 years into this search. I'm of the opinion it doesn't exist.
No, listen, I'm going to
I know what you're gonna. You say every year you're gonna, and every year you're gonna bring one in, and we fiddle with it
We found it, though, remember?
No.
Yes, we did. We found the perfect Christmas tree stand right there at Costello's in Pennsville, New Jersey.
No, they all work in varying degrees.
No,
There is no such thing.
Listen,
as
the
a
best
perfect
tree stand.
stand.
You can look. I think you can still order it online from this Christmas tree farm.
I'm sure
in Pennsylvania.
I'm sure you can.
And what they do is they drill a hole in the center of the trunk, and then this beautiful stand. You just sit the tree and plop it down on that little spindle that sticks up into the trunk of the tree.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Until
something
you have
happens.
a soft trunk.
Among other things.
Or when you start adding water to it.
Yeah.
And then it starts to do the Leaning Tower of Pisa look.
I refer back to my opening statement. There is no such thing as a perfect one.
No, but we did pretty
God
good
made
with that one.
God made the perfect one when he planted a tree in the ground with roots and dirt to hold it up.
I know. But we had this thing, though, and your dad was the same way.
In
He
what way?
did not like artificial Christmas trees.
Oh, no.
This was not Christmas to him.
Back in the day, such as, and I sound so old, but
Yes,
back
you are.
but back in the days of the 60s and the late 50s, when I would become aware of Christmas trees as a young child,
Yes.
it was considered culturally inappropriate, politically incorrect, if you will, to have such a travesty, such a what's the word, blasphemous thing as an artificial tree.
Oh, yeah.
I would go, because as you know, we lived in what we called a half a double. They call it a duplex today.
Right.
We lived in one half, and my grandparents, my mother's parents, lived in the other. And I would run across the porch and go in their place. And my poor grandmother had this little silver concoction that looked like in the shape of a Christmas tree.
The DuPont trees. That's what they were.
I don't know.
Chemical. What was it? What was their motto?
Better living through chemistry. Yeah.
Better living through chemistry.
Whatever.
We will provide you with a chemically treated artificial Christmas
That's
tree.
what she had, and I used to walk in there and go, "Oh, is this the best they can do?"
I know, and I never liked the silver ones or the white ones or the pink ones.
Yeah. Most God-fearing American people
You're so,
had
you just
a
want
real
a regular Christmas tree.
Yes,
I know.
Yes,
And
I must admit, I never said fudge on the way home from purchasing a Christmas tree
you
like
would
Ralphie
not be
did.
existing
No.
if you said fudge.
No. Well, we all know that I could say fudge and that wouldn't have been a problem, but something that sounds like that would not have worked. So that never did that.
If they watch the Christmas Story, they
You
get
got
the
to go
gist.
watch Ralphie
That's
and the
right.
Christmas Story.
That's right.
And
Speaking of
most
Ralphie,
have.
Ralphie's
Yes.
tree in the Christmas Story was so prototype of what we used to have in the 60s.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I mean, even though that story is from the 40s, it's still, that was my Christmas tree growing up.
And my father, who you've gotten a big kick out over the many years,
here we go.
by the time he got done,
You couldn't find the
you
tree.
couldn't tell that it was a tree. You couldn't see the green for the tree because he'd just cover it. It's like he just dumped a whole bucket of tinsel.
Oh,
I know. I never
and I
cared
tried
for those.
one year. I
never cared
tried
for
to
those.
decorate his tree for him, and so I bought I thought, man, this is great. I bought like 5 boxes of tinsel for his tree.
It wasn't enough.
And he said, "You only bought 5." That doesn't even cover the top.
Yeah, the way he used to.
I mean, you couldn't even see the green.
I know.
The green.
But there were years.
It looked like an aluminum foil
but
tree.
he
I'm
didn't-
telling you.
I don't know what possessed him to do that because when I was younger, he didn't do the tree like that.
Well, I think it was a Philadelphia thing. I mean,
Well, no, but when I was younger, he didn't.
well, then he got lazy and just started throwing tinsel on there.
I guess.
But there was a time.
Should have had a tinsel shooter.
You know,
But
remember
his early trees had tinsel spaced out, and it was like you see on
Yeah.
professional photographs,
That's
the way
right.
it's supposed to be done. His later trees looked like he just took it. You just couldn't see the tree or hardly the lights because it was all tinsel.
Well, my father and mother both were a stickler about tinsel.
Hmm.
I mean, they would hang one strand at a time.
Oh, I could see your father doing that.
Can you see him doing that?
Yeah, starting in Labor Day.
Yeah,
I could
and
see
so
your father doing that.
We could,
Yeah.
as kids, we could, no. We weren't part of the decorating process early on.
Oh, no.
Later on, we became when,
Yeah.
you know.
No, I know.
But
well,
the
of course,
strands of tinsel were, oh no, it had to be asymmetric and,
Yeah.
you know, you couldn't have one side longer than the other.
As well, as you know, as I've related the story many times, my father had a ritual that would be considered so inappropriate today for those that we know that set up their Christmas trees sometime before Halloween. Let
Well, they
alone
do. I mean, it's
Thanksgiving.
very, and especially I've noticed it more. I've noticed it more in the last 20 years.
And I don't understand that. But
Well,
here's
I think
Dad's.
they just figure that Christmas Day is over. That's the end.
I
There are
guess.
people that take down their Christmas trees on Christmas Day because they've had them up since September.
I'm well
And
aware
I'm
of
like,
that.
no, you don't understand the rules here.
I
The rules
will.
are we have to have a sacred time between the holiday of Christmas and New Year's.
Well, it's
isn't
more-
that written in the law?
It's it's more like the culture today that Christmas Day is the end of the festivities.
know. I always
when
wanted
you
it
and
to
I
be
were
the
growing up,
beginning.
Christmas. Thank you. It was just the beginning of the festivities,
Right.
leading up and culminating with New Year's Eve and New Year's Day.
Right.
That was New Year's Day was the end of Christmas.
That for us. Now, not everybody listening to this episode is going to agree with that.
Well, you know, I can't help that they're wrong, but
Well, here's
my
the,
apologies.
No, and it's not. Well, yeah, you're probably
And then some
right.
of them are our friends. I mean,
Right, I know.
they get it.
But I will disagree with you on something, though.
Oh, you normally do.
I will disagree with you on the fact that,
Go ahead.
that the tinsel thing. Now, you and I have had this argument over the years when we had a real tree.
Okay. I'm not sure I remember
Well,
this,
you
but
you
go
kind
ahead.
of you were like I grew up with tinsel. I want tinsel, and I started to go into the garland thing. Remember?
Yes.
And you
yes.
hated garland. I mean, that was such a '70s thing.
That wasn't a Christmas tree.
Remember
to
that-
put
that
garland on
tacky
a
gold
Christmas
garland?
tree. It's
It was
tacky
just-
looking.
I know.
I know, but
And then-
but I, being the good husband I am,
Well, brother,
and being the smart husband I am, that
you want to live longer.
a good husband is a happy husband, and a happy husband is one who lets his wife do her thing.
On some things, right?
Yeah, right. Anyway, I acquiesced to your request and let you string it up with garland for a while.
See, but well, my theory has been whoever is decorating the tree
Well, there's a
is
lot
in
of truth
charge
to
of
that.
the tree.
There's a lot of truth to that. But I want to digress back and revert back to our conversation just a minute ago about when the Christmas tree was put up, if that's appropriate for your direction.
I'll wait
here.
and see what you have to say.
Well, my dad had this, and I don't know where he got it. I never did ask him where he got it, but I suspect it was his work schedule because he managed a grocery store, and the weeks leading up to Christmas were crazy, and right up until Christmas Eve, he closed at 6:00.
Well, there's a lot of factors involved.
Yeah,
yes.
and he used to have
a lot
to
of people didn't have their bonus money. Remember that one year that we were so graciously given money?
Well, but we
it
didn't
was
get
like 2 days before Christmas.
Yeah, it wasn't Christmas Eve, but
No,
you
but
know.
still, it was
But,
like,
yeah.
now we can go have and buy Christmas.
But at 5:30 on Christmas Eve, Dad would stand at the front door of the A&P
Right.
with the keys to the door.
Get
and
everybody out of there.
He would only unlock it for the people who had gotten in there before that.
Right.
And he would have people come up at 5:30 in the afternoon on Christmas Eve wanting to get an entire order.
Yeah, well, and that's typical.
And he wouldn't let him in.
No.
He wouldn't let him in. Anyway, but he would come home. He always worked Christmas Eve till 6:00, so it was 6:30, 7:00 at least before he got home. And as a kid, when we were younger, now we got older, he got out of this, but when we were younger, just small, my brother and I were small, Mom had a few Christmas decorations around the house, and that was it. We would go to bed Christmas Eve, and when we were sound asleep, Dad would start the Christmas tree assembly.
Right, which I can't believe your mother actually allowed that because later on they didn't do that
But
after you guys got older.
I know, but this
that's
is
a lot. I mean, thinking if you're putting together toys and you're getting things ready and you're wrapping gifts and then decorate the tree on top of all that?
There was many Christmas mornings that I heard from my father. I just got in bed at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock.
And then you had to hear him complain the whole next day.
Yeah, and then my brother was waking me up at 5 o'clock. To get up and go, let's go look at Christmas presents.
Well, let's talk about lights
anyway, let me finish my story.
Well, you take a long time to finish some stories, and I'm just waiting.
And once again, I'd had this done if I wasn't interrupted 5 times, but I digress again.
Yeah, you do. You
Dad
digress
would
every
start
week.
at Christmas Eve. I'm trying again. Here we go. The listeners that hear this interruptions will verify I am accurate. Dad would start at Christmas Eve once we got to bed, and he would put the tree together. And the fun thing for me was to come down the Christmas morning, come downstairs, and he would leave the lights on and went to bed. And when we came downstairs, here where there was nothing the night before, boom, out of the clear blue, here's a complete Christmas tree, all the lights and everything on it, even excess tinsel. And all the presents underneath. Right. That was a neat thing.
Oh, I can imagine.
That was a neat thing.
It was. And it's, you do it because obviously he
wanted to make whatever his reasoning was. Yeah, whatever his reasoning was.
But later on, we didn't do that as much. We put the tree up
I know. He moved away from it. I think he got out of managing grocery stores.
Yeah, that happened.
When I was, 15? So
anyway, what I was going to go into is the lights. Yes. The lights of the tree were always another debate. Remember,
there was no debate in our house. The debate came from you.
They always wanted
you were
those
the troublemaker.
Big honker lights, the big ones.
What
right?
you named them,
yes,
honker lights.
Honker lights. That's what I call them.
Which is American Christmas lights.
But my mother, I was raised with twinkle lights.
They were.
I liked
They weren't
the
American.
Lights. And so, guess what I did one year? I actually put both of them on the tree. I put honker lights and twinkle lights, and we solved the problem.
I guess. And we put there were years I gave up.
I know.
And there was years that you would put those small little twinkle lights, those un-American, Japanese-made Christmas twinkle lights.
But I will say one thing.
And my father would walk in and go,
I can't ever get a word in it.
Yeah, you can if you stop interrupting me and let me finish. My father would walk in and look at your flashing twinkle lights and go, "It's not a Christmas tree."
See, that's not right. That was not of God. That's not your Christmas tree judgmentalism. That is wrong. That's like...
I'm just reporting the facts, ma'am. Go ahead. Move on.
Did he actually say he didn't like our tree?
Oh,
he actually would say he didn't like the twinkle lights.
He didn't. He didn't care for the twinkle lights.
Twinkle?
Yeah.
Speaking of twinkle, one time our cat was walking around the house with a piece of tinsel coming out of his posterior.
Okay.
And we had loads of tinsel in the litter box. That was exciting.
No, he was doing it. He was doing it in jest.
I know he was.
He didn't care.
He wasn't as mean as he said.
As he tried to act. No.
And I could see right through him.
Yes, I know. It was just a family joke. He liked the big lights, and you liked the little Japanese, un-American little twinkle lights.
How do you know the honker lights weren't made in China and Japan? You don't know that. Did you ever read the box?
Oh yeah, they were made here in the good old U.S. of A.
Oh, I know. Well, let's talk about some famous trees, though, that you and I have had. Now, I don't want to cry through any of this now.
Okay, I'm not crying.
We're not going to cry.
Oh.
Okay, but let me just tell you, I remember as a child, plus as a newlywed, going to John Wanamaker's downtown Philadelphia and going to hear that incredible pipe organ with the Christmas tree light show. There is nothing like it in the world.
Right.
And to my knowledge, they still they turned to a Macy's, I think, and then
it's been so long since I've been up there. I don't know
I'm
what.
not sure.
I think they still do something.
Yeah,
but
they do.
I don't know.
Yeah. And it's kind of remember when we went back again and we took the kids, and the last time we went, it was like it wasn't. Maybe it's because we're so more
older,
theatrical.
Older.
We've seen a lot of things, but I looked at that and went, oh, that was, I love the organ.
Yeah.
But I looked at the lights thinking, Oh my! This blew my mind when I was a little girl.
Well,
Yeah, I was like,
budget cuts sometimes. Hard to say.
but it's such a fun memory though.
Yep.
And I encourage anybody who wants to take the risk to go to Philadelphia these days.
Hallelujah.
But downtown
Amen.
at the old Wanamaker store, the
Yeah.
Philadelphia Light Show.
It was a
with
good,
the
great,
Christmas,
yeah.
Oh,
and
the Christmas
even to
tree.
go the few times we got older, and I guess past kids or whatever. And I guess we took the kids up there. Went to New York City.
Oh, well,
to,
that
the Rockefeller Plaza.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we did it several times. I did it when we would take a busload of
Right.
our fans from the WNRK radio back
Right.
during the Christmas time. Mm-hmm. And the very first time you and I together saw the Rockefeller Christmas tree in person, I got to tell you,
Yeah.
it's just Americana at its best.
And the good old U.S. of A.
And the gold of
That's right.
where the lights were made in China. Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
But this year was kind of funny because I follow the selection of the tree each year, and you can get online and find out where the tree has been selected and where it's coming from.
I'm hoping that there was cosmetic repair.
Well,
work
there was major
done.
cosmetic repair because this
the
tree
one-
did not arrive in great condition
This one
this
was.
year.
This was not one of their better efforts.
It was not.
Off the truck.
And everybody was nervous, but hey, they had the architects there.
Did you see the finished one?
The finished product looked great.
Okay, so
And they used a lot of honker lights and tinsel and
of course they did.
and Japanese made twinkle lights. I don't know what they
You
did.
don't know that.
But I got to tell you, of all of that, now we're going to get it on a serious note here, and I really want to hear your opinion on this because you're the one that had the conversation.
Okay.
Now, we have developed traditions in Western culture with the Christmas tree. However, Rabbi Dale Cohen
Yes.
had an incredible conversation with you one time about
Yep.
the Christmas tree. Do you want to just share a little bit about that?
Well, I think most folks know this, that the Christmas tree is actually a pagan symbol.
Right,
And it was adopted in the Roman Empire.
right.
And I'm sitting here, and I should have done this research to remind myself of the cult that was celebrated during the time in the Roman Empire
Yes,
during
right.
December.
Right.
And
Saturnalia.
no,
No?
that may have been one of them, but that's not the one that
Okay.
Rabbi Dale referred to. Anyway, there was a competing, if you will, religious group.
Well, there's always and
And
that has
they were a
happened.
pagan group.
That's right.
And the emperor did not like that. And so he ordained that the Christian Christmas season and holiday would be celebrated at the same time. Because as you've stated before, and history proves out, or at least most of the best records they have, is that Christ was not born
No.
on December 5 and 20,
No,
boom, boom,
not in
boom,
snow
or whatever.
and- right.
Boom, boom, boom,
Theologians
whatever it
say that maybe April,
is. Exactly.
maybe even May.
Exactly. But it was it was to counteract this pagan celebration, and over the years, the many generations and centuries, the symbols for it have gotten mixed together, so to
Well,
speak, and that's where we get
right.
our Christmas tree from.
And that doesn't mean that we're, I'm not going to get on that far,
No,
radical.
we're not pagans, no, by any stretch of
No,
the
but
imagination.
it is something to think about sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
and you can understand the culture, especially in the Jewish culture, which they take their specific holidays and they're very sacred days to them.
Of course, the feast of not feast, but the Hanukkah celebration.
And
is
the
that same
Christians,
time.
on the other hand, we don't take it nearly as sacred as we should. Everything else is more important than Jesus being born in a manger.
It seems that way.
It does, and I mean, we've. I know we sound old again, but it just. I was hoping that 2020 would be revolutionary in the mindset of maybe people returning in much more fervor and much more interest in the spiritual process of Christmas. And yes, I think our community is. I think we have people, obviously we see, but when I go outside of our community and I hear people that really don't have a relationship with other than fear. Truthfully, they're grasping at straws, trying to find something to have a passion about, and the passion is nothing to do with Christ. And it's just funny to me how we've kind of fallen in again to that competition, similar to what you were talking about, where we're replacing idols instead of what we're really wanting Christ to do in our hearts. And as we close this episode. We love trees. We love Christmas trees. I love Christmas. I have friends that have trees in every one of every room in their house.
Yes, so I've heard.
I know. I have some of the best decorating friends in the world.
And when you mention those kind of things, all I hear
is work.
Yes. Yes, amen.
But let me tell you something. All of them, the ones that I'm thinking of specifically, I have really, really wonderful friends that are just, they can take a blank room and turn it into something out of just,
God bless them. I love going to see it. It's wonderful.
But they also carry within them, and I could talk to every single one of them and say, what's more valuable? And they would tell me, it's not the atmosphere that I created. It's Christ in my home.
Well, let me suggest something to you, okay? If we do what we're supposed to do, as believers, as followers of Christ, that is to carry the countenance of Christ and a relationship with Christ all 365 days of the year.
See, you could have preached.
Okay, if we
go to seminary,
if we do that, the cemetery would have been better. But if we do that, then I feel that that Christmas season can be both. Not only the recognition that, throughout the world, we have set aside this time to recognize and remember Christ's birth, even though it probably did not occur. But at the same time, we can have a celebration that includes gift giving and let's face it, things we need to do, gifts not only to our family and friends, but gifts to those that are less fortunate than us.
Well, and that's exactly right.
Which there are many. So,
you don't even have to be a Christian to do that.
Of course not. But I feel there's a place. What I'm trying to say, I guess, is there's a place for both.
There is, and I love the fact that you're going to like this little thing here. I'm taking a stand for the Christmas tree.
What a play on words.
I know, it's a sappy thing.
Well, speaking of Christmas trees, since we are wrapping this up.
Yes.
Do you want me to throw in my grandfather's famous Christmas tree
Oh, please
story?
do. You got about a minute and a half.
I'll do it.
Okay.
I can pull it off. You watch. And I'll do it even less if I'm not interrupted. Many, many years ago in Philadelphia, my father grew up in his row house with his parents, of course. My grandfather was known to be a little celebratory with liquids, let's put it that way.
The inebriating kind?
Them's the kind. Depending, according to my father.
What he was drinking.
Yeah. According to my father, depending on what type of these beverages he was imbibing in, he would either be very mean or very happy.
Oh.
This particular Christmas Eve, whatever he had.
He was very happy?
Very happy.
Oh, that's nice.
They had a hallway going, or a doorway, going from one room to the other, and that's where they set the Christmas tree up. My grandfather, I remember this as a kid. My dad had it. He had a large golden ball that he would screw into the...
Like a disco ball?
Kinda, without.
Did they shine a light on it?
No, it just hung there.
Oh,
it just hung there.
Okay,
and didn't spin or anything like that. Anyway,
where did they hang it from?
In the doorway between the two rooms.
Oh, okay. I've never heard a thing.
Yeah, like that's what he did. Anyway, I remember seeing the ball, but Dad never put it up. I just remember seeing it in the decorations as a kid. He was sitting there at the table. His mother was in the kitchen making soup. And my grandfather sitting on a stepladder putting the decorations together. And they're getting ready for dinner. It's getting dark out. And as we've seen in the Christmas story, back in those days, when you overload an outlet, electrical outlet, with many, many plugs in it, it would blow one of the fuses in the fuse box.
Especially in Philadelphia row house.
Exactly. And this is back before circuit breakers, so you had to replace the fuse, and they would blow out. such an occurrence happened.
Yeah.
And of course, my grandfather was not feeling any discomfort. And so my dad said that he's sitting on his stepladder, the fuse blows, the house goes completely dark.
No. Did it make a sound? Did he say?
Oh, no. Yeah, that kind of thing. You just, and the house went completely dark. And Dad's sitting there at the table, he didn't move. And all of a sudden, out of the darkness, you could hear my grandfather singing Silent Night.
In his drunken stupor.
In his semi-inebriated fashion. And my father said he started laughing because it tickled him, which changed my grandfather's attitude quite quickly. And the next thing you knew, he was running for his life because his father was chasing him around the house. But you can just get the mental picture. My grandfather's sitting on a stepladder. Everything goes dark, and he starts, just like the happy drunk singing Silent Night. Just a funny memory.
I think your grandfather and my grandfather, since they were both from South Philly, and it makes me wonder sometimes if they didn't know each other.
You never know.
But my grandfather was the same way. One time, our tree, I should say, my grandmother's tree fell over.
We had one of those too.
Yeah, and those were the days where they had those beautiful glass ornaments and they shattered everywhere. And so my grandfather kind of did the same thing. And if I recall, this was before he was a believer and he had a little bit too much to drink. I don't know. Either that or it was the rum cake.
Who knows? These stories are long ago.
But his favorite song was, "Oh, Christmas tree, you look so pitiful to me." So
that sounds like your father.
I know. But we're really, if we think about it, we're probably related.
I certainly hope not. South Philadelphia is a big area.
I know it.
So,
well, you're done, sir.
I am so glad
Thank
to
you,
be
kind
done.
sir, as you've been known to say. Thank you, kind sir.
I'm so glad and relieved. I'm going to go play with my honker lights.
I know it. I love you, honey.
I love you
You're such
too.
a nice young man.
I know. Goodbye.
All right, goodbye. So falling trees and the tinsel argument. And my favorite, though, are those bubble candles of the old, those 40s and 50s bubble candles on the tree. That was my grandmother's thing. The Wanamaker tree, the Rockefeller tree, the Radio City tree, and Rabbi Dale Cohen's take on Christmas trees, and the fact that I have a ceramic, idyllic Christmas tree on my counter in the kitchen. So Christmas trees are work, but I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to take this stand. Number one, treasure every detail, every memory, I should say, and every mishap. I do. I go back and I think about all those crazy things. And number two, keep the tinsel away from the cat, if you get my drift. And number three, the best Christmas tree stand is the stand you make in your home. Always stand for love, always stand for joy, always stand for peace, and always make room for a good laugh if the tree falls over again. Proverbs 13:12 says, "Unrelenting disappointment leaves you heartsick, but a sudden good break can turn your life around." Boy, that's the truth. And Acts 5:20 from the Amplified Bible says, "Go, take your stand in the temple courts and declare to the people the whole doctrine concerning this life, the eternal life which Christ revealed." That's the stand I'm taking for Christmas this year. Christ is revealed. Thank you for tuning in to the Subiquitous Podcast. We love hearing from you. Just head over to SueDuffield.com. You can become a patron and a contributor to the incredible ministry that we're reaching many, many thousands of people with this podcast, as well as Couch to Kitchen concerts on Thursday night on YouTube and Facebook Live. We can't thank you enough. And during December, we're going to be specializing in giving certain little perks and little fun gifts along the way to those of you that have contributed to our ministry during this time. So be sure to send me your email address. My email address is radiosue@me.com, and send me your mailing address as well. And I'd like to send you something as a little thank you for keeping us going in 2020. The Subiquitous Podcast brought to you by, well, I'll tell you what, several of my wonderful friends across the world. And we can't thank you enough. And we pray that you have a great Christmas day. Take a stand for Christmas this year. May Christ be revealed. We'll see you next week.